Ready to break the narrative? Get the real story with no filters and no apologies. Cut through the noise with real conversation, real conviction, and real news. It's time for Truth Without Spin. It's the Alex Marlow Show. Cut through the noise with real conversation, real conviction.
This is the Alex Marlow Show, and I'm glad you're here. Day 2 of the live radio show, and remember to stick with me every day at noon Eastern across the country. I've been hearing from some of you from affiliates all across the country. Really glad you're here. Email me at aloha@alexmarlow.com. Let me know you're listening, what you're thinking, what you want to hear me cover. And don't forget to check out all my podcast feeds, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Rumble, whatever it is you like to get your pods. I'm there with 3 additional episodes beyond the radio show every week. So the radio show debut, I think we're putting those out about 9 p.m. Eastern when the show goes live on the Salem News Channel, which is on primetime. Very cool over there. And then we're doing 3 extra pods. I've got one up today for you this morning. Francis Martel, our world editor at Breitbart News. We go deep into what's going on from the Breitbart Caracas Bureau, which is not a literal thing, but we did have a Caracas-based reporter for a while. So everything you know about Venezuela is over there with one of the best in the game, and we have so much content for you. Today's going to be a huge show. Is the USA already running Venezuela? I have a detail that I will share with you that suggests we already are. Which drug lord will we capture next? I got my eye on one in particular. Why seditious Mark Kelly is getting demoted by Pete Hegseth. Should we take Greenland, or maybe we should buy it? All that and more coming up on the show. Plus, OnlyFans strippers are getting genius visas. So we're going to cover all that. Plus, we got some Hope Walls audio. How are we going to do this in an audio, in an hour? I don't know, but we're going to. Any of you who are unfamiliar with me, I am so thrilled to be here. I'm sitting in the seat that was occupied by my friend and mentor, Dennis Prager. Today, I'd listened to Dennis in this time slot my entire youth and young adulthood, one of the heroes of my life, and I'm very honored to be in his slot. Charlie Kirk, who is a close friend of mine as well, also broadcaster in this exact time slot. I was a weekly guest on his show. And I will be saying for the rest of my life that I gave Charlie his first big shot at Breitbart News, having him write up his own scoop that he had from his high school in Chicago, and he turned that into one of the biggest conservative activism enterprises and one of the biggest podcasts in the world. Truly remarkable. He was taken from us too young, and I'm going to try to honor him with this microphone every single day. And as I noted yesterday at my first show, I'm staring at the desk of my first boss in the conservative movement, Larry Elder. Truly surreal that I get to share a studio space with someone who's truly been a mentor to me. And Breitbart.com is where you should get all your news. But let's get into it. I want to start with the Venezuela item, and let's let Stephen Miller kick us off. I noted yesterday on the show how so essential that something changed with the media where Republicans, conservatives, all of a sudden are able to beat the establishment left on establishment media. We get these sound bites, and it is sort of, we get to watch, it's almost like the ESPN Sports Center highlights of what goes on in these shows. No one tunes into these shows, but then you see Scott Jennings with a good dunk, you see Stephen Miller with a good dunk, and all of a sudden, it's worth it for them to go out there and just dunk on these people. I got something for you that's special with Stephen and Jake Tapper. Cut 1, go.
This neoliberal frame that the United States' job is to go around the world and demanding immediate elections be held everywhere, immediately, all the time, right away. To create these vacuums.
That's not what I think, but you invaded the country. We went into the country and we seized the leader of Venezuela.
Damn straight we did.
And I'm saying,
we're not going to let,
so is the U.S. going to have new elections?
Jake, is that we're not going to let Tim Pot communist dictators send rapists into our country, send drugs into our country, send weapons into our country.
Okay.
And we're not going to let a country fall into the hands of our adversaries.
It's just so right. And I broke down yesterday how this is all about China. It's all about China trying to encroach into our hemisphere. And you can just see it. Maduro was not subtle, that he was a propagandist for China. He wanted China to invade Taiwan, which would cause a lot of headaches for the United States of America. You guys want to talk about affordability? Let's say we can't get our semiconductors now because China's invaded Taiwan. So all of this makes perfect sense. And of course, we have him dead to rights, legally speaking, for drug trafficking. He was a drug trafficker, a drug kingpin. And that was how he made his bones. He was previously a bus driver before this. And then now he is someone who is a dictator who is running not just a country, but a drug enterprise. He was not democratically elected. There was no legitimate election since at least 2018. And we have every bit we have the auspices to arrest him for his illegal drug trafficking, among other charges. I am speaking to a lot of legal people on this. I've spoken to a lot of them off air. I will bring some of them to the show. But this is a case where we have a stronger case than we have against other drug kingpins around the world that we've arrested. And that is the premise that you have to understand, that he was posing a major threat to our country via fentanyl, drug trade, etc. He's someone who is because of his dictatorship, was not democratically elected. I'm not saying we export democracy, but anyone who's acting like he had any right to have that job, he has no right at all to have that job. And we're going to give him due process. We're going to have a fair trial for him. It's amazing that we're giving him that level of dignity when he doesn't deserve it. This is someone who executes his supporters, makes people live in filth. The devastation, charting it, and I do this on the podcast with Francis Martel, the devastation of Venezuela, which at one point had a chance to be a proud nation, a prosperous nation. What communism did to that country is disgraceful, and the fact that the left is just rushing to defend it. And just giving Stephen Miller that chance for that dunk is just pretty awesome, because, of course, this guy deserves to go. That's the bottom line. He will get a fair trial. We have the evidence, and let's just see how it plays out. Now, the regime change is complicated, and that's where I want to get to with all of you, because I'm trying to play out what's going to happen in Venezuela now. And there's something that really caught my attention, which is Delcy Rodriguez, who is the vice president, who's essentially in charge now. And this is where I feel like the United States might already be in charge of Venezuela. The reason why is because Delcy Rodriguez is the only person who is not getting sanctioned right now, and her brother, so who's also powerful in the country. So they haven't been sanctioned. Everyone else in the country who's in power is sanctioned, even though they're Marxists, actually further left, politically speaking, than Maduro, which is a concern of mine. But it feels like clearly she's someone who cut a deal, a ruthless person who definitely wants a lot of power, called the Tigress by Maduro, and was someone who is one of the biggest advocates for the sort of Chavez worldview. And this is the Hugo Chavez worldview, who, again, was basically elevated to saint-like status in Venezuela. And so it's really her versus Guy Cabello, who is another drug trafficker, who is a very bad guy, wants to be a dictator openly. And that is sort of the tension right now. We all like Maria Corina Machado at Breitbart News. She's a name you've heard a lot, got the Nobel Peace Prize, has been singing Trump's praises. But the question is, who could actually lead a country? And a lot of that involves who actually has the ability to have a military to be able to enforce things. All this is very complicated, but the thing that I'm noting right now, which is really important, is so long as we've got Delcy there, it made me think, if a leftist associated with the Chavez regime, deep Marxist, why she's the person there at this moment, it does make me think that it's because there's a deal already cut. Maybe she was the person who made it possible for this raid to take place, and she could already be the American puppet. That's kind of what I'm reading from what I've been able to gather over the last couple of days. One other thing I want to throw out there to all of you, speaking of Stephen Miller, is he's been out there, he's been a lot of ink today, because he suggested that we could take over Greenland. We could commandeer Greenland, and no one's going to stop us. And I was thinking about this, very provocative, and I don't know if we're going to do that. But I will tell you one thing that John Carney at Breitbart News has suggested, that we should be able to buy Greenland. We should be able to buy it. Their GDP is infinitesimally small, I think just a few $1 billion a year. If we were able to give them, let's say, 200 billion, 300 billion, I don't know why we wouldn't be able to take Greenland from them at that price. I think it's a good price. It's probably, maybe 1.5 times what we've given Zelensky to have a failed war against Russia, and who knows where that money's going. It's probably going to, ski resorts and ski vacations for Ukrainian oligarchs, one of the most corrupt countries on earth. And we can continue to build an American empire. It's so essential that America, to some degree, has this sort of imperial ambitions. Not a lot. I don't want a lot of blood spilled on it, but a world that feels like America is ascendant, that we're taking out the bad guys, that we're trying to take resources to make life easier for Americans. The world's going to be a more peaceful place when that happens, and we're going to be a more prosperous country. So my take is to Stephen, we don't need to take Greenland. You could buy it. Buy it at a reasonable price. It'd be super cool. Scott Jennings loves it. You know who else loves buying Greenland? Charlie Kirk loves it. He went out there over with Sergio Gore and Don Jr. He was there. And just remember that. Remember Charlie. Remember buying Greenland. I'm Alex Marlow. This is The Marlow Show, and we'll be right back. This is The Alex Marlow Show. I'm back with you. And I want to share something with you that I think is really sad news, It's breaking news. California Congressman Doug LaMalfa has died unexpectedly. He's serving in the House in his 7th term, 13 years, only 65, which is very young these days. Total shock to people. And he was memorialized by Tom Emmer, the House Majority Whip. Doug was a loving father and husband, staunch advocate for his constituents and rural America. Our prayers with Doug's wife, Jill, and their children. He's a rice farmer. And he's someone who was a part of the Republicans' narrow House majority. Now, he's a California congressman. There's a very good chance with the redistricting that's taken place in my home state where I'm broadcasting now, there's probably a seat that would have been lost. And I didn't know him at all, really, but a dependable Republican vote. It's always painful to lose someone young, but particularly when we're seeing the Republican majority dwindle. And it was really striking to me that I saw this news just a couple of days after I saw a photo of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was paddleboarding in Costa Rica. And it's very noteworthy to see that MAGA infighting is truly going to be a threat to the future of this country, because I can't understate the stakes for the 2026 election enough. 2026, we are choosing between whether or not we're going to have 2 more years of Trump being able to enact an agenda, or whether or not we're going to be in impeachment mayhem, lawfare chaos, all the sort of things that I wrote about and I warned of in Breaking the Law. Remember, today's January the 6th, by the way. Are you guys all celebrating there back in the booth? Sean, you got a big J6 party tonight? It was the darkest day in American history. It's like 67 9/11s all on the same day. That's what it was. And it's today. I saw no January the 6th content when I was making the rounds on establishment media outlets, as I'm known to do in the morning. But very noteworthy that, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who just squabbled with Trump over stuff, now she's running to CNN, other places, and taking the leftward slant. If you want to go in like Stephen Miller is going, if you want to do what Scott Jennings does, which is, defend the president, to come from the MAGA position and then debate them, that's good. But she goes on to basically agree with people who are on The View and on CNN now. Unbelievable stuff, and just narrowing that majority. One vote away. And this is all the things that make it more difficult to have an agenda. It makes it much more difficult for us to be able to have the confidence that going into 2026, going the second half of Trump's administration, we're going to get to be on offense. This has been the most offensive year. We're 2 weeks away from the year since the inauguration. We'll do some commemorative stuff there, but it's been such a productive year. And we're running the risk of losing that because we're just playing too many games. Trump sees this clearly. We got cut 10. This is Trump speaking at the Republican. This is the Trump speaking at Republican retreat. Roll it, Sean.
Together we had 12 months of unprecedented success in 2025, and now we're going to make history and break records with the epic midterm victory that we're going to pull off. It just doesn't seem to happen for people that win the presidency. It's an amazing phenomena. You win the presidency, and we sure as hell are having a successful presidency. I will say that. But even if it's a successful presidency, there's been nothing like what we're doing. We had a very good day 2 days ago, too. But even if it's successful, they don't win. I don't know what it is. There's something psychological.
Yeah, there is something psychological, and I feel like winning begets winning, victory begets victory, and it is so, so important that we keep up the good vibes. And speaking of good vibes, Sean reminded me of this clip from over New Year's of Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller, who I was just playing, vibing out to Vanilla Ice. Play this for me, guys. It just triggers the haters so much, and I love that. But also, it's just a reminder that ICE is doing some of the most important work of this administration. We were just reminded of just the power of what the Department of Homeland Security and our Immigration and Customs Enforcement, what they can do, and how important it is that that these people are supported. There was a story that was piping hot yesterday for a hot minute, was that a Minneapolis Hilton affiliate, Hilton Hotels, a Minneapolis Hilton was refusing Department of Homeland Security officers from using the hotel. And I think it was a Hampton Inn or something, but it was a regionally owned thing. And Hilton came out right away and said that they're going to be Hilton came out and said they're a welcoming place. The hotel's independently owned and operated, and the actions referenced are not reflective of Hilton's values. We're investigating the matter with the individual hotel and can confirm that Hilton works with governments, law enforcement, community leaders, basically saying, hey, wait a minute, don't blame us for this stuff. Social media pressure and the fact that this administration backs Department of Homeland Security, we are pro-law enforcement. We are the pro-law enforcement party. The left is the ones that hates law and order. That's why they defend dictators like Maduro. That's why they don't want our streets cleaned up. That's why they don't National Guard deployed. You guys get the picture. These are the stakes for 2026. I'm Alex Marlow. The Alex Marlow Show. If you want to correspond with me, aloha at alexmarlow.com. We're going to get that hotline set up soon so we can get some callers for the live show. We're also doing 3 additional podcasts a week. I got a deep dive on Venezuela that is up there now with Francis Martel, our world editor. Venezuela's downfall under communism, charting the whole century. It's really pretty amazing stuff and entertaining. I listened to it on the way in. It was really good. She's really good. And then also, we're going to have my New Year's resolution shows coming out. So I've been working on that. With my New Year's resolutions, you will laugh. I guarantee you. Some of them are fun. We're going to have a good time over there. I just noticed this, that we got an apology now, a full-fledged apology from the Hilton Hotel. See, this is a total new era. Could you imagine how champion this would have been from the left, where the left just would have came in and would have just defended any hotel's right to not have these fascist law enforcement Nazi thugs coming in? No, they're trying to enforce our laws, and sanity is winning out. Normalcy is winning out because most people like law and order. It's an 80-20 issue. Most people think the border should be secure. Most people don't love the idea of illegal aliens coming into the country. They like the idea of bombing drug boats. They like the idea of stopping drug cartels from being able to operate freely using all sorts of illicit oil that we could do a better job with, to be honest with you. All this connects, and it's all part of how Trump governs as that 80-20 president. He also, I was struck by this, that how communicative he's been with the media. We have an exclusive at Breitbart News this morning. Transcripts show that Trump spoke for over 13,400 minutes in 2025. So that was 74% of press events. He spoke at them. So he is the main spokesperson for his own movement. And I think this is so important because at Breitbart News, our main motto has been the culture's upstream of politics. This is a communication era. The media is the message. In being able to get through to people, cut through the noise, being able to communicate in ways that are effective, being able to sell yourself, being able to sell what you're all about. It's just so essential, and Trump is so good at it. And understanding that is just so, it is the model going forward. We need to have people who are able to communicate as often, as effectively as Trump, and as fearlessly without backing down. He never backs down. He never apologizes. Such a great model for any of you who are engage in leadership in your profession, your career, and your family. Marco Rubio says there's not a war in Venezuela. Maduro's capture was a law enforcement function. This is precisely right. Bill Barr, not my favorite guy, but Attorney General, very smart person, and a great bagpipe player. Just those of you who weren't aware of that, really good at playing the bagpipes. Sean thinks I'm making a joke. No, I'm not making a joke. Well, I am, but he is terrific at the bagpipes. He said our case against Maduro is actually stronger than our case against Manuel Noriega, who we pretty much the same circumstances, Panama dictator, drug kingpin, and that was basically where we were at. And so that's where when you see people on the left are acting like this is some sort of a completely out of left field, no, there is precedent, which is Noriega, weaker case. And he was someone who was, because of Maduro's regime, not only was he allowing China to encroach into our hemisphere, but he was also ensuring that Americans died by bringing drugs here, which ruins communities, ruins the American culture. Is the culture upstream in politics? If so, why do we allow drugs to flow in so freely? And you get people like the aforementioned Marjorie Taylor Greene sounding like a Democrat. So these are people ostensibly part of the broader MAGA coalition. Trump prioritizing big corporations and the banks and oil executives. Some people are going to make money. I'm not a big corporate guy. I'm very anti-corporatism in general. But if the choice is help Chevron or help brutal dictator who kills people, I'm going to go with Chevron. It's just me. It's just like, it just seems fairly logical. But people hate Trump. Their hatred of Trump is so powerful, they lose all sense of logic and reason. And so we can't start sounding like leftists, which is what I'm starting to see. I'm starting to see people who are on our side, ostensibly, generally speaking, try to talk themselves out of this being a good thing thus far. And I'm not saying there won't be complications, of course. But so far, there is so much good news that can come from this. And I think it sends a message to the rest of the world, to the rest of the bad guys. We're not to be trifled with. We're not to be mocked. You don't do dance in our faces. And a lot of this is also going to draw out the left. It exposes people because people have to take a stand on some of these things. And the left, of course, is in disarray. And I've got some clips to that effect. I want to play a clip of a guy who I haven't played much on the podcast yet, and of course, first radio appearance, James Talarico, who's running for Senate in Texas, and he's got a very strong social media campaign, young guy, and he looks sort of like a typical young politician, kind of smug and smarmy, but he does have a huge social media apparatus. And play this talking point, please. Cut 9, guys.
How do you look a parent in the eye and tell them you've sacrificed their child's life for big oil's bottom line? I've said from the beginning of this campaign that the biggest divide in this country is not left versus right, it's top versus bottom. And this new war is just the latest example of how billionaires run this country, run this economy, run this government, and now run our foreign policy. As U.S. Senator, I will never vote to send someone's son or daughter to war to make billionaires richer.
That's how they just frame it, is that if American corporations make money, then it must be bad. So the money must go to China. The money must go to drug kingpins who are sending drugs illicitly into our country. And I just want to ask, how do you tell the parents whose children died of fentanyl that this was okay, that this was acceptable? Why? Why is that the standard? The standard is because if Trump does it, it must be wrong. And people have become incapable of reason. And that's a huge opportunity for us, because for those of us who see Trump, who's governing on these 80-20 issues, as automatically wrong, that is a massive opportunity. And when we can't squander this because of rage or because something that's top of our priority list didn't make it to the top of the president's. All right. Speaking of the left opining on Trump, I've got Hope Walls. So yesterday we got to bring the great news in my inaugural show that Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, he's gone. And we say Tampon Tim, people don't know this, because he wanted tampons in the men's room. So this is the face of masculinity, that the men's room should have feminine hygiene products. So that was a real position that he had. So his daughter is a social media gadfly and someone who I absolutely love to play all of her clips. They're always sensational. Let's play cut 2, please.
The decision he decided to step away from the race was to kind of get that target off of Minnesota. I think he believes if he's not in the race, there's nothing, they have nothing else. Because he has that, national profile. Trump just hates him for some reason. I think it's because he's everything Trump will never be. So there's that. And I think without him in the race or trying to, continue governing the state past next year, I think he thinks that kind of the target will be off.
He's definitely everything Trump will never be. I can't wait until Tim Walz waves goodbye, and he waves like this, because that is his wave. He does do that. He does these flappy hands things. Again, the guy is just the face of masculinity. But it's also, they're calling that up talk now. That's what I've heard the expression, where the millennials and the Gen Zs, they talk like this. They're actually soliciting affirmation. She wants us to affirm what a great guy Tim Walz is. But I got news for you, Hope. This is not the end. This is not the end of us looking into Minnesota, because likely Amy Klobuchar is going to be the nominee, and we've got a mountain of dirt and evidence on her. She's been a very corrupt leader. Peter Schweitzer, who's my colleague at Breitbart News, who I will feature on the show probably next few days, we'll have to bring Peter in. He's in deep research into Klobuchar, and she is not clean as a whistle. I got cut 4. Play cut 4, please.
Like when he called me Snow Woman at my announcement in the middle of that thing, I wrote back on Twitter, I'd like to see how your hair would fare in a blizzard. So I wrote back, hey, Donald Trump. So I wrote back, hey, Donald Trump. So I wrote back. I tweeted back. The science is on my side. And I'd like to see how your hair would fare. And I'd like to see how your hair would fare in a blizzard. I'd like to see how your hair fares in a blizzard. And I'd like to see how your hair would fare in a blizzard.
The charisma just comes straight through the screen. I mean, who wouldn't want her to lead you? But we've got deep reporting on her selectively prosecuting a ally for a clear Ponzi scheme, crony capitalism, being on the payroll of corporations essentially to enact certain policies, and being completely abusive to staff. So the whole Minnesota Nice phenomenon, totally bogus with her, and is one of the nastiest people in Washington in general. And what could be interesting is that we're going to checkmate her in this way. I'll tell you what, because if she becomes governor, then maybe there's a deal that's being cut. Maybe it's already been cut, that she's going to appoint Tim Walz to the Senate, which is possible because he stepped down from the Senate. So we're going to have to get her on record on this, because we got to ask her, Amy, are you going to appoint Tim Walz to the Senate? And if she gives an affirmative no, then, which it's going to be tough for her to do that, then that's her putting the knife in Tim Walz. Her basically saying he was a terrible governor and he was a terrible vice presidential pick. And it's an embarrassment to the entire party. And then if she gives a maybe, hubbada, then it suggests that she might actually appoint him. And then that is just going to be completely devastating. And maybe we can actually make some real political progress in Minnesota, which has been the strongest Democrat stronghold for my entire lifetime. It's been a blue state the entire time I've been alive, which is wild. Okay, so, but I think one thing that is noteworthy about this case with Walz, Minnesota, is that we're just starting to dig. We're just starting to look into corruption. And for any of you who think it's just about Tim Walz and it's just about Minnesota, and this all happened on Klobuchar's watch too. She's a senator. She's supposed to be an advocate for the people of Minnesota who's having their money stolen from Somali migrants who came here for who knows what reason other than to steal taxpayer money for fake healthcare businesses. Truly, truly wild that is something that is deemed acceptable, deemed tolerable, even from committed Democrats. Like, don't you feel like you can get someone who didn't allow for your tax dollars to get stolen for Somali fraudsters? But we're going to look everywhere. We're going to look in California. We're going to look all over the world for all of the corruption and all of the fraud, because we're going to find it. The story that was crazy today that we saw is out there that apparently the guy who shot Ashley Babbitt on J6 apparently was running a fake healthcare business of some sort out of his wife's house. So the details are, I'm being a little bit vague because I haven't run it down personally yet, but this is what was being floated when I came into studio today, is that these fake businesses where the government money is going to be propping up bad guys, people are looking to get the bag from the government. We know why this happens. It happens because certain politicians feel like if they investigate this sort of corruption, then the result will be that they end up losing voters. This is why there's lawlessness in our major cities, because if you crack down on law and order, you alienate the shoplifter vote. You alienate the criminal vote. If you crack down on corruption, you alienate the people who are getting the bag from the government because they don't have any usable skills and do not have integrity. This is why we need to restore sanity. We need to restore American values, Judeo-Christian values. We need spiritual revival. There's a lot of low integrity people, and we're importing a lot of them too. And that's not okay. That's why the Department of Homeland Security is doing important work, closing down the border, ICE. That's why we sing their praises, and you got to have their back. We also got to have our warriors back, that if they want to go in, if they're going to do a Delta Force type mission, that we have their back, we have their support, and we're not second guessing every step of the way, because a lot of people risk their lives to make the world a little bit better place this weekend. Good stuff. I'm Alex Marlow. We'll be right back with more on the Alex Marlow Show. All right, the hour's gone by fast here in the Marlow Show, but that's why we're doing podcasts. I'll be over there podcasting a little bit later and have a fresh podcast for you coming right out as well, in addition to the radio content. So many people to thank: Sean McConnell, Roger Wicker Jr., Rick Locke, Garrett Shawley, Matt Zibble, Brandon Couples, Misty Callahan, John Cassio, and our executive producer, Greg Eben, all make the show possible. So you're having a big team. That's part of the fun of doing radio. It's very cool. Have a real studio, a real team, and I try to bring in the best content that we can, because we're going up against a bunch of losers, and we need to defeat them. And we got a chance because we got a real winner as the president. I'm going to use some examples here to try to illustrate this point. Mark Kelly, 6 weeks ago, put out a video with some other members of Congress, which was obviously seditious, intending to undermine the good order of the military. And what he tried to do is he tried to suggest that people who are in uniform can defy orders that are illegal, as if they're all supposed to be lawyers, supposed to have a full concept of what law and order is, and to be insubordinate if they think they've interpreted the law in a certain way and can defy orders. And this obviously sedition. It's a coup. I don't see any difference in that or asking for a coup. So Pete Hegseth is stripping him of his retired rank over the seditious video. It could affect retirement. It could affect all sorts of certain things that could be benefits to him. And I like this move. It's aggressive, and it sends a signal that if you're going to come at the king, you best not miss, and you best not come with a bunch of social media nonsense. And this is the whole nature of where the left is at the moment, is that they don't really have a lot of great ideas. I want to share with you some Zohran Mamdani. Let's play cut 5 there, guys.
You know, I had a New Yorker the other day come up to me and ask me if there was any way I could help him get World Cup tickets, because he was saying that the cost that he saw for a game was $600, right? This is increasingly out of reach. We have made what used to be a working class game into a luxury experience. And there are too many for whom it doesn't matter where the World Cup is being played in the world. They know where they're going to watch it. It's TV. And we want to ensure that there are more experiences available.
So he wants to ensure World Cup tickets are available to all. Sporting events it's just a super luxury item. I mean, I don't think I can afford to go to the World Cup, but he wants to make sure that the people who must live in a rent-controlled apartment can also get to see the most popular sporting events in the world. That's what he's going to be doing as mayor. That's the priority. Yeah, if you told me I was getting free World Cup tickets, he might have got my vote. I don't know. I'm not a big soccer guy, though, but I would see the spectacle. Cut 7. Let's play more Mamdani.
Have you ever rented an apartment in New York only to find yourself not just paying rent, but application fees, amenity fees, credit score checks? In a city filled with old buildings that could use some tender loving care, some landlords are taking advantage of the housing market to gouge tenants with outrageous fees, all while leaving them trying to survive in homes with collapsing ceilings and sinking floors. It's time for that to change. We need a citywide crackdown on rental ripoffs. We need to take on the indignities from those landlords who demand more than their fair share. That's why our administration is organizing a series of rental ripoff hearings in every borough. This is a chance for you and your neighbors to speak directly with us about how you're getting ripped off.
He's doing rental ripoff hearings, guys. The world is saved. And all he needs to do is go to an economics 101 course. Probably not anything from you get any major university. Not a Bowdoin College where he went. But maybe Tom Sowell could teach him that. Part of the reason they can't fix stuff is because of rent control. They can't get the money that the places are worth. So that's why they're getting ripped off. They feel like they don't like their apartment. Well, it's because they're paying below market rate. And so the landlords are not exactly getting rich off of these things. Just basic economics, trying to educate the communists. Communists are popping out all over the country. And one thing that's noteworthy is that we're seeing them pop up in other parts of the country as well. The mayor of Seattle, Katie Wilson, an open communist. Cut 6, please, guys.
I had the honor of being noticed by the President of the United States, who called me a very, very liberal / communist mayor. It's nice to feel seen.
Well, we certainly see what happened in Venezuela under communist rule over the last 30 years. It's been devastating. It's been a complete disaster for the people. Can't get medicine, can't get food, eating dog, bartering for bread. That's the legacy of communism. And so I'm saying that we're contrasting this with this guy. Sean, play my new cut here that you got for me.
And my wife, by the way, my wife hates when I do this. She said, she's a very classy person, right? She said, it's so unpresidential. I said, but I did become president. She hates when I dance. I said, everybody wants me to dance. Darling, it's not presidential. She actually said, could you imagine FDR dancing? She said that to me. And I said, there's a long history that perhaps she...
All right, that's it. But you see that. The charisma, the dancing, the decisiveness, the leadership, and they want free World Cup tickets and love being communists. We got to win, guys. This is The Marlow Show. See you tomorrow.